in this chapter. For example, when Abraham died, that was when the blessing was released to Isaac. But why is it that in this chapter, Isaac is releasing the blessing while he's still alive? Right? There's there's a lot in this chapter that I feel like we've grown up digesting stories from this chapter that may not have been entirely accurate, or we just haven't received enough insight from it yet, right? Abraham's blessing was released to Isaac after he died, but Isaac is releasing the blessing to his children while he's still alive. Why? Right? Another question is, why is it that Isaac required Esau to bring him food before he could bless him? Why? He could have blessed him while he was there. Come, my son, I'm about to die. Let me bless you. Why did he require food before releasing the blessing? Another question we're going to be asking is, why did Isaac think he was going to die? If you read, I don't know if you noticed, but Isaac doesn't die until Jacob comes back from Haran. Isaac dies in Genesis 35. Why is Isaac feeling like he's going to die now? Like, these are questions that we're going to be exploring today. And how was Jacob able to successfully retrieve the blessing from Isaac? There's a lot in this chapter. I promise you, there's a lot in this chapter. So we're going to be getting started. Let me share my screen real quick. If you're joining this on TikTok for the first time, I know we have some newbies on here. All the replays from the previous lives are going to be on YouTube. So check it out, Leadership Wisdom from the Bible. You can get the replay for this one on YouTube as well. So a quick background, yeah. Before we got to Genesis 27, yesterday we did Genesis 26, and we saw a different dimension of Isaac, right? We saw Isaac rise to become a powerhouse. There was a famine after he received his inheritance and his blessing from Abraham. There's a famine where he moves to Gerar on his way to Egypt, and God appears to him and tells him, do not go to Egypt. Stay here and I'll bless you. And in 1 year, Isaac sowed in a famine and reaped 100-fold. One man in one season became bigger than a nation, bigger than a kingdom, that they had to chase him away. They're like, you're becoming too great and too mighty for us. So I want you to picture that. This is the Isaac that we are talking about when we get to chapter 27. And the reason why I say that is because chapter 27 opens up and it says that now it came to pass that when Isaac was old and his eyes were so dim that he could not see. I want you to think about the Isaac that we spoke about yesterday, the mighty Isaac. Now he has grown old, and now his eyes are so dim that he can no longer see. How do you think? And again, when we're studying the Bible, don't just read past this. Try to put yourself in that person's shoes. How do you think Isaac felt at this point? This is like, imagine, like, to make it more relatable, think of think of Jeff Bezos or an Elon Musk, right? They have achieved great things and now they lose their sight. How do you think he's feeling at this point? For someone who was so independent, he has now gone from independence to dependence. From someone who could walk by himself, when his people came and said, "We've just dug a well," he's going to look at the well. He's commending them. Like, he's running his businesses. And now he has lost his sight. Right? Because what happens when you're not able to see clearly is that you lose speed. Because clarity helps you move faster. When you're not clear on something, you procrastinate. So now Isaac is in a state where I'm sure he's not sure how to deal with this. This is like a different stage of his life. At his old age, where he's expecting to, enjoy and, live out the reward of his hard work, and the end of your life is supposed to be the best of your life, right? Now he's blind. He can't see. But then he calls his son Esau, and it says, where is it? He called Esau his older son and said to him, "My son," and he answered him, "Here I am." And in verse 2 says, "Then he said, Behold, now I am old. I do not know the day of my death." Why did he think he was dying here? We're going to get to that shortly. It says, "Now therefore, please take your weapons, your quiver, and your bow, and go out to the field and hunt game for me. And make me savory food such as I love, and bring it to me that I may eat, that my soul may bless you before I die." Now, there's something interesting here, because before now, like I mentioned earlier, before now, when Abraham died, that was when the blessing was released to Isaac. But Isaac is doing something different here. He wants to release the blessing before his death. He wants to release the blessing while he's still alive. And so I'm thinking, is it possible that Esau here was caught off guard? Because remember, a few chapters ago, Esau had sold his birthright to Jacob. And obviously the blessing comes with the birthright. So is it possible that Esau and Jacob believed that the birthright had been transferred, or the transaction had been complete, and it will be transferred after Isaac dies? Because when we read further, you see that Jacob wasn't expecting this. Esau as well, is it possible he wasn't expecting this, but an opportunity has just presented itself. Even though I've sold my birthright, my father, who probably was ignorant of what happened, is now offering to give me the blessing. And so how is Esau navigating the situation? What's he thinking in this? In his mind, is like, you know what? Let me quickly go. Let me quickly go. Maybe this is redemption for me. Right? Maybe even though I've sold my birthright, I can still get the blessing because my dad doesn't know what happened. Right? But again, the question I want to ask is, why did Esau want to give the blessing while he was still alive and not wait for after he had died? And I think this is just me thinking out loud here. Is it possible that Esau was depressed because he had lost his sight? Think about it. This is like one of the wealthiest men in the world at this time. He has lost his sight. He has gone from being independent to now being dependent. If he wants to walk, he needs someone to take him. Is it possible that he felt like he had died on the inside? Because, again, like I mentioned earlier, he thought he was dying here. But guess what? Esau doesn't die until Genesis 35. Oh, sorry, Isaac. Isaac doesn't die until Genesis 35. So why was he feeling like he was going to die here? Right? He doesn't die until Jacob comes back, which means there were still at least another 15 years. Because remember, Jacob worked 7 years for Rachel, worked 7 years for Leah, and he probably still chilled with Laban for some time before coming back. Because Jacob and Esau bury Isaac together. So Isaac is not dying for at least another 15 years. But at this point, he feels like he's about to die. Sorry, I mixed, for some reason I've been mixing up the names. I've been calling Sarah Rebecca. I've been calling Rebecca pardon me. You know what I mean, right? So Isaac thought he was going to die. Is it possible that he was depressed? Is it possible that he felt dead on the inside? He felt useless. I've lost my sight. Who am I? Who am I without my sight? Right? And again, this led me to ask the question. Yeah, I love that. Woo! Chris Steve says, when you feel incapacitated, you're afraid. Therefore, he was scared he was going to die without blessing the son. Exactly. Because this was new territory for him. He has always had his eyes. All of a sudden, his eyesight is taken away from him. He's afraid. I think I might just so let's meditate. Let's picture this story, right? The other question I had was, why did he need food? And this is why I think he may have been depressed. Because he could have easily called Esau and said, man, I think I'm about to die. Let me bless you. Why did he require food to release the blessing? Abraham, when the blessing was released, didn't require food. So why? Why? Is it possible? Because remember, we all have 5 senses. We have sight, hearing, smelling, tasting, feeling. He had just lost one of his 5 senses. Sight. So now he's left with 4. What do you think? And where do you think excitement is coming from without his sight? Right? Exactly. Like he really did think he was going to die any day. Yeah, I believe that. Because I mean, he was blind now. There was a lot of uncertainty. He couldn't see anything. It's like, man, life is no longer worth living. It's possible he did believe that. But is it possible that without the sight now, where was his excitement coming from? And in order for him to release the blessing, remember, he may have been in a depressed state at this point. Is it possible that he asked for food, the food that he loved, not just any food, the food that he loved, to revive his soul so that he's able to release the blessing? Because imagine getting a gift that you really wanted. The way you will pray for that person is different from when you get a gift that you didn't really want. So is it possible that Isaac at this point, he's asking for food to at least bring some joy, to excite his senses? Thank you. To excite his senses enough for him to leave that state that he was in and to get to a state where he can release a blessing. because your state determines what you are able to release. So verse 2, where are we? It says, behold, now I am old, I do not know the day of my death. Now, therefore, please take your weapons, your quiver, and your bow, and go out to the field and hunt game for me. When you look at the word game, the root meaning of that word game actually means venison. And venison is the meat of a deer. It's not just normal meat. It's the meat that comes from a deer. So this is not a domestic animal. This is not a goat. This is not a cow that you can keep in your house. This is a deer. So Esau had to go and hunt for it. This was like a delicacy. This was not a regular meal because you don't just kill deers every day. This was meant to be like some serious, rare occasion type of food. And you're going to see why I say that in a second, because I'm like, why is it that he asked for venison, but Rebecca went and got goat? But let's see. It says, and make me savory food such as I love, and bring it to me that I may eat, that my soul may bless you before I die. So he needed his food to revive his senses so I could release this blessing. Right? And when I read this, it just made me remember, or at least like there's something that is going on in the church today, principle of honor, right? Where you give gifts so that people can pray for you. And it's like, is this where it came from? Because when I read this, I'm like, interesting. Is this where that principle of honor came? Where when you want to go see someone who is important, maybe your pastor, maybe your mentor, you go with a gift. It's always advisable that you go with a gift. And I feel like we've abused it now. I believe you need to be inspired before you give something. Because look, if someone had given Isaac money at this point, money would not have released the blessing. If someone had given him an extra goat, it would not have released the blessing. So before you give a gift, you need to be inspired on what gift to give. Don't make it a traditional exercise. Don't make it a religious exercise where, I just need to give something. Let the Holy Spirit direct you. I love that, doctor. Oh my goodness. I was about to quote that. If we go to Esther chapter 2, verse 15. Let me just show you real quick. Esther 2. And most people haven't seen this. Esther 2. Let's start from verse 12. It says, each young woman's turn came to go into King Ahasuerus after she had completed 12 months preparation according to the regulations for the women. For thus were the days of their preparation apportioned, 6 months with oil of myrrh and 6 months with perfumes and preparation for beautifying women. Verse 13, thus prepared, each young woman went to the king, and she was given whatever she desired to take with her from the women's quarters to the king's palace. In the evening she went, and in the morning she returned to the second house of the women, to the custody of Shashgaz, the king's eunuch who kept the concubines. And she would not go into the king again unless the king delighted in her and called for her by name. Verse 15. Now, when the turn came for Esther, the daughter of Abihail, the uncle of Mordecai, who had taken her as his daughter to go into the king, she requested nothing but what Haggai, the king's eunuch, the custodian of women, advised. And Esther obtained favor in the sight of all who saw her. So Esther was taken to the king into his royal palace in the 10th month, which is the month of and the king loved Esther more than the other women. The other women brought what they thought the king would like. Esther brought what the king actually liked. So you need to be wise with your gift giving. Don't give somebody what you think they will like or what you like. Get them what they like. Esther went with what, because this, like when you read this Esther story, there's a lot of insight in there. There's a lot of insight in there. She partnered with the one who knew the king and who knew what the king would like. That is why you shouldn't just, don't, a lot of people prepare to, they prepare for the king, but they don't prepare for the people who they will meet, or they don't prepare for the people who will refer them to the king. The reason why I say that is we just read about how Rebecca became Isaac's wife. A lot of people will treat you well because they can see that you have something to give them, but they don't realize that by treating you well, you have the link that will take them to what they're actually looking for. I don't know if that makes sense. Esther could have treated this eunuch, oh, I'm here for the king. You are his servant. You are his bodyguard or whatever. Like, well, there's no need to treat this guy well. But she must have done something that made him turn around and be like, who is this girl? Maybe she greeted him. The other girls came in, oh, like, we're here for the king. Maybe Esther went and greeted him. And it's like, wow, who is she? And all of a sudden, he's like, you know what? I'm going to help her. So again, don't be a respecter of persons. Be a respectful person. Well, we Genesis 27, eh? Okay. In fact, typical example, like my wife cooked, I'm Nigerian, yeah, so there's a soup back home that's called egusi. My wife made one last year. It hit my soul. Like this verse, it became real to me. It became real. Like when I ate it, I said, please let me pray for you. I wasn't even joking. She thought I was joking. I wasn't even joking. Like it provoked a prayer in me. like it has never happened before. I've never felt that way before. But for some reason, like the food, oh my gosh. It was something else. She just knelt down and I blessed her. Like, God bless you. It has never happened before. Well, for some reason that thing hit me where, like, so I definitely understand what Isaac is going through right now. It's like, please, like, give me that food that I love so that I can release this blessing. Woo! So let's keep it moving. It says, now Rebecca was listening when Isaac spoke to Esau, his son. And Esau went to the field to hunt game and to bring it. Now, this here, Esau is trying to be clever. He's actually trying to cheat Jacob at this point, because remember, they had already had an agreement. A transaction had taken place. The birthright had already been agreed upon, right? But I love this part of the story because it again shows the power of being in alignment with God's will. Because Romans 8:28 says that all things will work together for the good of those who are called. All things will work together for the good of those who love God and those who are called according to his purpose. Jacob was in God's will. And even though Jacob was not here, all things still work together for his good. Reason why I say that is because what are the odds that Rebecca was home at this time? Isaac calls Esau. What are the odds that Rebecca is home at this time? Number one. Number two, that Rebecca hears Isaac call him Esau. Number 3, that she eavesdropped and she's able to hear the conversation. Right? What are the odds? All things will work together. Jacob didn't have to be here. Because when you are in alignment with God's will, people will hear things that you are not even supposed to hear. Or people will hear things that you're supposed to hear, but because you were absent, they will still send the message to you. For some, things will just work out. That's why I believe the biggest thing that any human being can discover is just know what God's will is for you. All things will work together for your good. Rebecca is here. Jacob is not here, but yet he finds out. Remember, Esau is like, man, this is my chance to reverse this thing, to reverse this mistake. And so Esau is probably rushing. He's gone out. Like, he's going to go and find the venison. But he says that Rebekah spoke to Jacob, her son, saying, indeed, I heard your father speak to Esau, your brother, saying, bring me game and make savory food for me, that I may eat it and bless you in the presence of the Lord before my death. So again, Jacob is like, what? We're releasing blessings before death now? And so I'm sure Jacob is probably surprised right now. He's shocked. He's not prepared. Because it's like, I thought when dad dies, that's when the blessing will be released. Dad wants to give the blessing before he dies. And this is why I'm like, man, Rebecca literally, like, if you read this story, Rebecca did everything. If Jacob did not have Rebecca in his life, Jacob would have lost out on this. Because check this. She now says, now, therefore, my son, because she could see that, man, this guy, like, she's like, obey my voice and do according to what I command you. Go now to the flock and bring me from there 2 choice kids of goats, and I will make savory food for them, from them for your father, such as he loves. Again, Isaac has asked for venison, but Rebecca is cooking goats. Why? And it's possible that Rebecca is like, yo, only Esau can get the venison right now. Only Esau can get venison right now. Like, nobody's going out to hunt. He's the skilled hunter. So we have to make do with what we have. Let's hope that our father Isaac, my husband Isaac, is not able to tell the difference, right? Let's hope that he's just looking for food that he loves, not that he's particularly looking for venison. Because it's interesting that Esau went out to go and hunt for something that they already had inside. So, verse 10 says, then you shall take it to your father that he may eat. That he may eat it, and that he may bless you before his death. Now, Jacob is like, but mom, look, Esau, my brother, is a hairy man, and I'm a smooth-skinned man. Perhaps my father will feel me, and I shall seem to be a deceiver to him, and I shall bring a curse on myself and not a blessing. I don't know, but when I read this, I'm like, is that really your only problem? Isaac is blind. He's not deaf. You're only concerned that, oh, what if he feels me? What about what if he hears you? He was more concerned with what Isaac would feel, not what Isaac would hear. Why? Because I'd have thought that, like, even though they were twins, which we often forget when when we read this. They were twins. The Bible doesn't say if they were identical twins or not, though. And I've heard that with identical twins, their voices can sound the same. They may not, like you may be able to, but regardless, as their parent, you've lived with them for over 40 years at this point. You know when one is speaking and when the other isn't. You're able to distinguish between both. So I'm sort of wondering here that why wasn't Jacob concerned about his voice? He was more concerned that what if he feels me? Right? Says, perhaps my father will feel me, and I shall seem to him to be a deceiver, and I shall bring a curse on myself and not a blessing. But look at what Rebecca does here. His mother says to him, let your curse be on me. Because if she hadn't said this, Jacob would have procrastinated. He would have delayed. Remember, Esau is out there hunting right now. He may have even caught the venison and now he's cooking the food. She needed a way for him to quickly do what she was asking him to do. She's like, if you're worried about the curse is on me. Just go. Only obey my voice and go get them for me. And then he went and got them and brought them to his mother. His mother made the food. Right? Verse 15 says, then Rebecca took the choice clothes. This was another, I don't know how this woman, we need to do a study on Rebecca at some point, because man, the level of insight that she had here, it's like she knew exactly what to do. It says then Rebecca took the choice clothes of her elder son Esau, which were with her in the house, and put them on Jacob, her younger son. And she put the skins of the kids of the goat on his hands and on the smooth part of his neck. So she was already proactively arranging the situation that, you know what, Isaac may be blind, but his other senses are still working. If he wants to activate the sense of touch, we need something that would convince him that it's Esau. If he wants to activate the sense of smell, we need something that will do that as well. So if you think about it, and we're going to get to that in a second, if you think about it, because when Jacob comes to Isaac is doubting. But now he only has 4 senses, and he has to rely on these 4 senses to convince him. When he hears his voice, he's like, this doesn't sound like Esau. But then when he connects with his other senses are telling him this is Esau. So now it's 3 against 1. Let me show you. So she put the skins of the kids of the goats on his hands and the smooth part, and then she gave the savory food and the bread which she had prepared into the hand of her son Jacob. Verse 18. So he went to his father and said, my father. And he said, and Isaac was responding saying, here I am. Who are you, my son? This one again hit me different, because I'm like, you should know your son's voice. So is it possible that Isaac here, or that Jacob here, was trying to change his voice to sound like Esau? Because if you try to change your voice to sound like Esau, then you don't sound like Jacob and you don't sound like Esau. Is that why Isaac is like, who are you, my son? It's a question. Is this my son? And then Jacob said to his father, I am Esau, your firstborn. I have done just as you told me. Please arise, sit and eat of my game, that your soul may bless me. But Isaac said to his son, how is it that you have found it so quickly? Like how? Remember, Rebecca tells him, go. He didn't need to go out to hunt. So obviously, Isaac is like, there's something off here. And he said, because the Lord, your God, brought it to me. I think even at this point, Isaac is like, there's something off here. So the first question is, how are you able to get the venison so quickly? Jacob passes that one. Isaac is like, okay. Then Isaac says to Jacob, please come near me that I may feel you, my son, whether you are really my son, Esau or not. So at this point, Isaac is like, this is there's something fishy here. But remember, he's blind, so he can't really see. He can't even see. Verse 22, so Jacob went near to Isaac his father, and he felt him and said, the voice is Jacob's voice. So at this point, he knew this is Jacob. But the hands are the hands of Esau. Remember, he has 4 senses left. So now he has to rely on the 4 senses to come to a conclusion and to make a decision. So at this point, the voice has already given Jacob away. In his mind, he's saying this is Jacob. But the hands, the sense of touch, is saying that this is Esau. So in Isaac's mind, he's confused. It's 1-1 at this point, right? Verse 23 says, and he did not recognize him because his hands were hairy like his brother Esau's hands. So he blessed him. Then he said, are you really my son Esau? Remember, it's still 1-1. He said, I am. Now, Isaac is about to test and use another sense to see if he's telling the truth or not. So he said, you know what? Bring it near to me, and I will eat of my son's game. So now he's activating the sense of taste. Right? Oh, I love this. Laban and Rebecca, brother and sister. Now you can see. I love that. Yup. Like brother and sister, man. So now he's going to activate the sense of taste to see if this is truly Isaac or Esau. Now, this is where I'm like, because Esau probably had a way of cooking his stuff. Rebecca is the one who cooked this. So again, it may be the translations, I don't know, but he eats the food and he doesn't complain. So remember, bring me food that I love. He's like, this food tasted good, man. I love this food. So now we're doing 2 senses versus 1. So he ate, he brought him wine and he drank. Then his father Isaac said to him, at this point, he's like, you know what? I'm still not sure. He says, come near now and kiss me, my son. And when he came near and kissed him, he used that opportunity to smell his clothing. And he said, surely the smell of my son is like the smell of a field, which the Lord has blessed. At this point, now we have 3 senses versus 1, all in favor of Jacob. And at this point, he's blind. So he's like, I have to rely on the other senses. 3 of my senses are telling me it's Esau. Only 1 is telling me it's Jacob. So now it's 3 against 1. You know what? It's Esau. And so at this point, I love that. Someone is saying, is it possible that Esau learned to cook from his mom? Yep. I thought about that as well. So it says, surely the smell of my son is like the smell of a field which the Lord has blessed. Therefore, may God give you of the dew of heaven. He begins to bless him now. He begins to bless him. It says, therefore, may God give you of the dew of heaven, of the fatness of the earth, and plenty of grain and wine. Let people serve you, and nations bow down to you. Be master over your brethren, and let your mother's sons bow down to you. I don't know. I didn't have time to meditate on this, but there's something in this blessing that he gives him that I believe gives some insight into what we're going to read in the subsequent chapters. Because it says, let people serve you and nations bow down to you. I'm thinking of Joseph, because Joseph came from Jacob. When he went to Egypt, the Egyptians bowed down to him. Who saw that? Oh, I love that, Julia. Oh my gosh. It says, I guess our senses, no matter how accurate, can never be compared with God's counsel. Yup. His spiritual senses were not alive. Like, I'm like, why didn't he ask God? But instead, he asked for food to bless. So he was carnally minded. So again, look at this. Let people serve you and nations bow down to you. Be master over your brethren. Over your brethren again, that's Joseph and his brothers bowing down, but they all came from Jacob. I just know there's something in this blessing that needs further investigation. And let your mother's sons bow down to you. So he's talking about Esau. He's talking about Esau now. And cursed be everyone who curses you, and blessed be those who bless you. Whew. In verse 30, now it happened as soon as Isaac had finished blessing Jacob, and Jacob had scarcely gone out from the presence of Isaac, which shows you that Esau was quick. Because how is it that he's coming now? Remember, he had to hunt. He had to first find the venison, the deer, kill the deer, cook the deer. And it's not just cooking, like cooking, you have to skin it, like everything. Cook. So this took some time. Even Rebecca had to do the same thing. Yes, she are bringing two goats from here, but she still had to cook it. So the fact that Esau is coming just after Isaac has left means that, man, this was a good day for Esau. So he also had made savory food and brought it to his father, and said to his father, let my father arise and eat of his son's game, that your soul may bless me. Whew. I'm trying to imagine Esau's reaction here, because, like, remember, Esau has gone out. He's like Jacob doesn't know. I'm just going to get this blessing. So he comes in excited. I've done everything that my father has asked me to do. Okay, Father, like, I brought your food, now bless me. And his father says, who are you? And that's not an absurd question, because Isaac believes he just finished speaking with Esau. So now he actually recognizes the voice, but he's like, what's going on here? He says, who are you? He said, I'm your son, your firstborn Esau. Then Isaac trembled exceedingly. At this point, Isaac knew, because his mind had been telling him, this sounds like Jacob, man. This is not my son. So when he trembled exceedingly, at this point, he knew what had happened. And he said, who? Where's the one who hunted game and brought it to me? I ate all of it before you came, and I blessed him. And indeed, he shall be blessed. Indeed, he shall be blessed. You know, there's a difference when you've eaten the food that you love and you've released the gratitude. If someone brings that same food again, it's not going to feel the same. I think it's called the law of diminishing returns. It's like there's only so much that you can do. I love that. Jesus keeps me. Esau did not understand the ramifications of selling his birthright. Like, it's interesting. And again, he had already made an agreement. And this is why we need to be careful what we say and what we use our words and how we use our words. Because if you say something, the world will conspire to make sure that thing happens. The world will conspire to make it happen. Right? So he didn't realize the ramification of selling his birthright, because the birthright is attached to the blessing. So Isaac here is saying, I've blessed him, and there's nothing I can do to change it. And when Esau heard the words of his father, he cried with an exceedingly great and bitter cry. and said to his father, bless me, me also, O my father. But he said, your brother came with deceit and has taken away your blessing. So at this point, he knew what Jacob had done. Verse 36, and Esau said, is he not rightly named Jacob? For he has supplanted me these 2 times. He took away my birthright, and now look, he has taken away my blessing as well. So is it possible that Esau saw the birthright and the blessing as 2 separate things? Because I'm like, didn't he realize that the blessing comes with the birthright? So really, he supplanted you once. And then he said, have you not reserved the blessing for me? Then Isaac answered and said to Esau, indeed, I have made him your master, and all his brethren I have given to him as servants. With grain and wine I have sustained him. What shall I do for you? What shall I do now for you, my son? And Esau said to his father, have you only one blessing? Bless me also. And Esau lifted up his voice and wept. Then Isaac his father answered and said to him, like, I'm not even sure if Isaac should have even blessed him at this point, because this blessing, his blessing was, I'm not really sure if if you can call this a blessing. So he was asking, and Isaac is like, you know what, if you're asking for one, let me give you some. It says, behold, your dwelling shall be of the fatness of the earth and of the dew of heaven from above. By your sword shall you live, and you shall serve your brother. God, like, whew. It's like, I can't reverse it, man. You will serve your brother. And it shall come to pass that when you become restless, that you shall break his yoke from your neck. Now, this, I didn't have the time to meditate on this, but I know there's something in here. What does it mean that he shall become restless? And that, I don't know, New King James sometimes just makes things hard to read. Let me see how NLT says it. Here's verse 40. It says, you live by your sword and you serve your brother, but when you decide to break free, you will shake his yoke from your neck. There's something there. There's something there. If I'm sure if I spend more time, the Holy Spirit will reveal it. Like, there's something there, and it's probably going to be revealed in some part of the Bible. If we study the life of Esau, I'm sure, because he became the pioneer of the Edomites. So I'm sure if we look at the Edomite stories, we may get some insight into what Isaac means here. Right? Verse 41 says, so Esau hated Jacob because of the blessing with which his father blessed him. And Esau said in his heart, the days of mourning for my father are at hand. So even they believed that Isaac was about to die. Because Esau is here saying the days of mourning for my father are at hand. So which means it's close by. Then I'll kill my brother, Jacob. This is another Cain and Abel situation. The battle of the offsprings comes here again. So it says, and the words of Esau, her older son, were told to Rebekah. So Rebekah gets to hear about this. And then she immediately calls Jacob to say, go to my brother's house. She sent and called Jacob, her younger son, and said to him, I don't even know why they keep referring to him as younger son, like they were twins. Every time I picture Jacob and Esau, for some reason, I just picture one being actually older, but they were twins. I guess one needs to be the older and one the younger, but I don't know, it paints a different picture when you see older and younger. They were twins. And it says, surely your brother Esau comforts himself concerning you by intending to kill you. Now, therefore, my son, obey my voice, arise, flee to my brother Laban in Haran, and stay with him a few days until your brother's fury turns away, and until your brother's anger turns away from you. If you remember in Genesis 4, I believe, when Cain was angry God told him that sin is crouching at your door. This anger needs to go. This anger needs to subside. If not, it is looking to possess you. And so this was actually wisdom on Rebecca's side as well. Like, there's no need fighting and arguing that, oh, but I thought we agreed that the birthright was mine. You took bread and stew for this birthright. Like, why are you getting upset? There's no point because both, like, he's angry at this point. The best option is for you to just leave. And maybe that is practical advice for someone here, right? There's a proverb that says a gentle response or something cools off something. There's a verse on that. When there's anger in the atmosphere, two people cannot be angry at the same time. One person is angry, one person has to be cool. You cannot both be angry at the same time because bad things happen when that happens. So Rebecca is like, but again, Rebecca tells him to go away for a few days. Stay with him for a few days. A few days turn to over 14 years until your brother's fury. So now we'll see why when he came back, Esau is like, bro, like, come on, man. Jacob had gone with the mindset that Esau is upset with me. But the last memory he had of Esau was Esau being angry. So for 14 years, he believed that Esau would still be angry. Esau is like, man, that was like 14 years ago. I mean, he may have been angry for like a year, but 14 years has gone by. I haven't seen you. But it's interesting that to Rebecca, she wanted Jacob gone for a few days and to return. But Jacob ends up spending a lot more time with her brother. Then I will send and bring you from there. So again, okay, this is interesting because she's telling Jacob that once you're there, when it's time to come back, I will send a message to you. So is it possible that Esau was still angry for a long time? Which I don't know. That's I don't know. That's interesting. Why should I be bereaved also of you both in one day? Remember when Adam and Eve, when Cain did what he did, they lost two sons that day. When we read that, we think, oh, Adam and Eve just lost Abel. They lost both Abel and Cain because Cain got banished from the land. So it's interesting that she's also saying that why should I be bereaved also of you both in one day? Like, I'm going to tell you, there's something here. There's something here actually. Then verse 46, I was listening to it earlier today and I'm like, interesting. Because Jacob now leaves to Laban. And I was wondering, why is this verse 46 here? It just seems off. When you read verse 1 to 45, and you now read verse 46, it seems out of place. Because verse 46 now says, and Rebekah said to Isaac, I'm weary of my life because of the daughters of Heth. If Jacob takes a wife of the daughters of Heth, like these who are the daughters of the land, what good will my life be to me? Hold on, let me get to NLT. Like, my goodness. This NKJV is So verse 46 says, then Rebekah said to Isaac, I'm sick and tired of these local Hittite women. I would rather die than see Jacob marry one of them. Why is this verse here? The Hittites again. Remember, I love that you caught that. The Hittites. Remember, Abraham didn't want Isaac to get married to the Hittites. So that's why he sent his servant to his family's place. Oh, so yep, covering her tracks. Remember, she had just told Jacob to go to her brother's place, Laban. And now she's telling Isaac, I'm sick and tired of these local Hittite women. I would rather die than see Jacob marry one of them. So is it possible that she's telling Isaac that the reason why Jacob has left is not because I heard that Esau wants to kill him, but because he has gone to find a wife? So again, Rebecca is playing both sides here, like a mother would, if we're going to be honest. And I feel like the reason why she favored Jacob over Esau was because of the prophecy that God had told her. Because when she was pregnant with them, God told her, he didn't tell them, he told her that the older will serve the younger. So Rebecca was doing the will of God here. Rebecca is doing the will of God here. But once the will of God has gone, now she begins to protect Esau. She's like, oh, I don't want Isaac to find out that this his son that he loves wants to kill his other son. Like, what's that? Now she's covering up for him. Like, oh, like Jacob has actually gone, like he didn't leave because Esau wants to kill him. But he has left because I don't want him to marry any of the women here. It's even interesting how Esau was favored by his dad, because Esau at this point was married with two women from the land that they were not supposed to get married from to. So it's interesting. That's why I'm like, Isaac, the later part of his years, it needs to be studied. Does God need help to fulfill his will? That's a great question. I believe so. If not, why are we here? And this is a much deeper question, because a lot of people just believe, oh, like God already has everything figured out. Like, and he does. It's a much deeper question. I have this debate with my friends like every single day. It's a much deeper question. It's not everything that we'll get to understand here, but what I do know is that God is just. And God doesn't, the reason why he gave us free will was that he wanted us to have the power to make decisions, the power of choice. And so God has a will. We also have our will. And God has given us the power of choice to choose his will over our will. And so God cannot then force us to do his will, because that would be going against the very reason why he gave us choice. So it's a tricky one, and I know it's one that we can debate forever, but yeah. So I saw a question here that I saw a comment here. Yeah, it's interesting. Like, did Jesus keeps me here? It's interesting. Like, did Isaac eventually find out that Rebecca had a part to play in this deception? Because that would have caused some conflict, man. Because I'm sure after he's like thinking, how did Jacob know? It was only Rebecca and I in this house. So how did Jacob get to find out? Anyway, the Bible doesn't really tell us anything about that. Okay, create, inspire, repeat says God in his sovereignty has chosen to partner with us, but his plans do come to pass. All right, guys. So tomorrow we're in Genesis 28. What's going on in Genesis 28? I think this is where, okay, so Isaac called for Jacob, blessed him. Oh, okay. Hold on. I think that last verse, if we look at verse 1 of 28, says, so Isaac called for Jacob, blessed him. So this was the excuse. Okay, interesting. So I take what I said back. Not entirely, but Genesis 28 verse 1 gives us more insight. It says, so Isaac called for Jacob, blessed him. So Jacob didn't just leave. But again, Rebecca told Isaac, the reason why Jacob is leaving is I want him to go find a wife from your family side or from where we're from, as opposed to marrying one of these women. Interesting. Okay. And then Jacob is okay, interesting, interesting. All right. So tomorrow we're going to be in Genesis 28. Remember, always start with the end in mind. I know, right? Like, guys, like, we're early today, man. I didn't really have time. I study this every day. So today, for some reason, whew, it's been a journey, man, to be honest. Like, when God said do this 365 days, I thought it was easy, but my goodness. Like, I've literally been putting out new content every day for over 200 days now. We still have like a long way to go. It takes its toll, right? Like, it takes its toll. But I was thinking about it today and I'm like, I'm operating on grace, man, for real, because I don't know where the energy is coming from. There are days where I'm just like, man, tomorrow again, another day? Like, my goodness. But we thank God. We thank God. It's been an amazing journey so far. Whew. There's something he said. He said, for you to become someone you've never been, you need to do something you've never done. For you to become someone you've never been, you need to do something you've never done. And what we are doing at this point, doing a video every day for 365 days, it is something that I would have never ever imagined, but it is shaping me and us to become. Because I've noticed that there are a lot of you who haven't missed a day. It is shaping you. It is shaping you. You are developing habits because you are what you do consistently every day. You can believe, oh, this is who I am. No. If you show me your routine, if you show me what you do on a daily basis, I can know who you are. Right? So God is transforming us through this process. So just keep at it. I'm going to keep at it. Like, for over 200 days, like, I can't not make a video every day now. Even though the flesh is weak, the spirit is very willing, but the spirit has been overriding the flesh for months now. It is well. It is well. Have a great evening, guys. See you guys tomorrow by God's grace, 6 to 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And if you want to catch the replay, check it out on the YouTube channel. See you guys tomorrow. Take care. Bye.